The 1980s introduced America to many consumer food products. While some items have since become nothing more than nostalgic memories, others have stood the test of time and are still enjoyed today. While I could list 10 products and their histories, I went much further and invited my old friend Milo Dennison on a shopping trip at the local grocery store. We purchased these items and made a lunch of them. So, here are 10 foods and beverages introduced in the 1980s you can still get today, and our takes on them following a 1980s packaged lunch. Every classy 1980s consumer product lunch has to start with an appetizer. The theme for our appetizer was ranch. If you were around in the 1980s, you could not get away from ranch dressing. It took the 80s by storm, was used in uncountable ways. Shelf-stable Hidden Valley Ranch, 1983. Ranch dressing predates the 80s when Steve Henson made a small fortune with his plumbing business in Alaska. He perfected his buttermilk dressing recipe in 1949, cooking for his colleagues. In 1954, he used his wealth to buy a property in California and called it Hidden Valley Ranch. Steve served his dressing to guests and friends at the estate. It became so popular with locals that he started selling it to nearby grocery stores. Over the years, the business, headquartered at Hidden Valley Ranch, grew so large that he sold the brand to Clorox in 1972 for $8 million. Ranch dressing took off in 1983 when Clorox introduced shelf-stable ranch, bottles that didn't need refrigeration. Since then, the ranch dressing flavor owned the 80s and overtook Italian as the best-selling style of salad dressing in 1992. Keep in mind this story is a North American one. If you ask anyone outside of the United States and Canada about how huge ranch dressing is, they might not feel your vibe. Cool Ranch Doritos, 1986. It's interesting to note Doritos, which means little golden things in Spanish, were not flavored at all when invented in the 1960s. It wasn't until 1972 when Doritos introduced the nacho cheese flavored version we all know and love today. The hot nacho needed a cool counterpart, and the cool ranch flavor of Doritos hit markets in 1986. This flavor also proved Doritos could inaugurate different flavors for their chips, and they did so en masse starting in the 90s. Although numerous Dorito flavors have come and gone over the years, nacho cheese and Cool Ranch make up the foundational yin-yang of Doritos, often with fandom camps on each side. Incidentally, Cool Ranch Doritos are known as Cool American or Cool Original outside North America. For our appetizer, we went full-blown ranch and dipped our Cool Ranch Doritos in Hidden Valley Ranch dressing. I thought the double ranch was double cool and worked well for me. Milo had different thoughts. In either case, we can now say we dipped Cool Ranch Doritos in Hidden Valley Ranch dressing and ate them, so we can now die without regret. We did enjoy ranch on a small salad though, as it would be the only chance to eat fresh vegetables during the experiment.
Ranch chips and ranch dressing? That's just a bit too much ranch for me.
Now we move to our introduced in the 80s consumer product meal with our main course. Lunchables, 1988. We started our main course by munching on a box of ham and American cheese Lunchables. We were eating Lunchables in Issaquah, Washington, 20 miles east of their original introductory market of Seattle. Lunchables were first inaugurated in Seattle in 1988 before moving nationwide the following year. Tom Bailey of Oscar Mayer conceived Lunchables in 1985 as a means to sell more lunch meats. Lunchables were meant to appeal to busy mothers who could provide a quick lunch for their kids on the way out the door. The quick lunches included Oscar Mayer meats, cheese, and crackers with packaging reminiscent of TV dinner. I remember thinking Lunchables were so cool when I was a kid, but find myself annoyed with them now as an adult. There are over 24 varieties of Lunchables today, but we went with the basic ham and cheese combo with an Oreo cookie. My only thought was that I could buy each of the 3 ingredients individually and combine them to make many Lunchables at a fraction of the cost. We're only paying for the compartmentalized plastic convenience. Were mothers of the 80s, and of today for that matter, too busy? Or is it just laziness at this point? Milo agrees.
Hey, wait a minute. These used to come with mustard. Just a little packet of Dijon mustard. These guys know what I'm talking about. Oh, man. Shrinkflation comes for the Lunchable. Thanks, Lunchable people. Anyway, I still like them. Look, they're bad for me, of course, so I could probably go out and buy some crackers, meat, and cheese for the same amount of money and get quite a bit more. And I could buy my own little thing of Dijon mustard. But hey, these are convenient, easy, and they taste delicious.
Lean Cuisine, 1981. We now move on to the only hot food item on this list, and the only one that didn't try to kill us with its fat, salt, and/or sugar content. Lean Cuisine. The 1980s ushered in an era of health-conscious consumers who wanted to eat healthier and maintain their weight. In response, Stouffer's branched out a new line of healthier frozen meals dubbed Lean Cuisine. With its brilliant name and advertising, supermarkets had a tough time keeping Lean Cuisine entrees stocked when they were introduced in 1981. Other companies have since imitated with their own lines of healthier frozen meals. Lean Cuisine started out with 10 meals upon its inauguration, but there are now over 7 dozen dishes today. With so many options, we decided to go with Salisbury steak with mac and cheese. We've talked about Salisbury steak on our podcast more than once for some reason and wanted to see how Lean Cuisine's version was. I agree with Milo's thoughts.
As a connoisseur of microwave Salisbury steaks, I have to be honest. This is pretty good. It smells like crap when it's cooking, but once it is on the table in front of me, I'm pretty happy with it. The less salt compared to the others is noticeable, in a good way, and a nice touch with the mushrooms. The mac and cheese tastes a bit bland, but nothing a bit of salt and pepper couldn't solve. Overall, I'd definitely get this again.
With all the saturated fat, cholesterol, and sodium, our hearts started begging us for some sugar. So we moved on to the dessert part of our 1980s consumer product lunch. Fruit Roll-Ups, 1983. Introduced by General Mills' Betty Crocker brand in 1983, Fruit Roll-Ups were a sweet snack based on traditional fruit leather. Yet, this mass-produced version contained almost no fruit at all. Despite the slogan, "Real fruit and fun rolled up in one," there was little fruit. Except for a small amount of pear juice concentrate, the snacks were comprised of corn syrup and artificial color. Still, they were pretty fun. The candy was rolled up on a cellophane, and there was nothing like the sound of peeling off the fake fruit sheet. Betty did fool a lot of moms who trusted her, as the candy was often marketed as wholesome. The Center for Science in the Public Interest called them out in 2011 with a lawsuit, and old Betty has since toned down the made-with-real fruit rhetoric. We could only find Fruit Roll-Ups in a variety pack with its sibling products, Fruit by the Foot and Fruit Gushers. I have a teen son with friends, so all this would not go to waste, or at least to my waste, as the case may be.
I don't recall these being such a pain in the ass to eat. First, you have to open the package, then you unroll them, and your hands get all sticky in the process. Then, once you start eating them, it's basically fruit-flavored sugar dissolving in your mouth. I finished eating one of these with a strong need for a drink of water to wash the taste out of my mouth.
Nerds, 1983. Although David and Judy Klein invented Nerds in 1976, it wasn't until 1983 when they hit North American shelves under Sunmark Corporation's Willy Wonka Candy Company brand. Essentially poofy bits of sugar coated with more sugar, the package covers included anthropomorphic creatures resembling the candy. A unique feature was the 2 flavor combinations, each flavor having its own compartment of the box. I always enjoyed mixing the two as if they were different ant species having a war, but that's me. When we went shopping for Nerds now, we found them a little difficult to find. Moreover, the only flavor we could find was rainbow, which mixes the flavors up without the box partitioning. That's a shame because Milo and I were looking forward to having a nerds battle. I suppose the nerds all found peace with this particular variety. Humans of the world can learn something from rainbow nerds.
You know, as a child, I loved these hard little sugar balls. Now, they make me wonder how much they are contributing to my waistline, and I feel like I need to brush my teeth after eating them.
Throughout our lunch, we sampled many beverages introduced in the 1980s, all of which exacerbated our waistline and heart health issues. Original New York Seltzer, 1981. Father and son team Alan and Randy Miller created Original New York Seltzer on the other side of the U.S. in Walnut, California in 1981. The non-caffeinated clear beverages featured glass bottles and natural ingredients. I remember liking this soda brand because, although it had the qualities of a high-end beverage, it was actually quite affordable. Low-income kids like me could feel a little posh with New York Seltzer. The soft drink was discontinued in 1994. So, why is it on this list if this is about food and beverages we still enjoy today? Well, Original New York Seltzer made a comeback in 2015 and is again on store shelves with both original and new flavor offerings. There were only two flavors available for us, black cherry and vanilla cream, with a fair deal on the price. It was a hard choice, but we went with vanilla cream and were not disappointed.
A nice light vanilla and cream flavor. This would be great sitting on a back patio during a warm summer day. I like that it comes in a glass bottle instead of plastic as well. However, drink with caution. One little bottle is 61% of the recommended daily sugar intake. So, lots of sugar? I had two.
Capri Sun, 1981. If you haven't noticed by now, this list is America-centric, so for Europeans insisting, Capri Sun was invented in Germany by Rudolf Wilde in 1969, you are correct. 10 years later, in 1979, legendary boxer Muhammad Ali became the brand's ambassador, and in 1980, the products were launched in Asia and Africa. The US would finally get Capri Sun, launched in 1981. The stand-up pouch and attached straw were a revolution in convenience. In 1982, it won the US medal for Packaging of the Year. I remember how convenient and tasty these were when I was a kid, and this product is multi-generational, as my own kid has enjoyed Capri Sun over the years. There is nothing like sucking on cold Capri Sun from a little straw in a pouch on a hot day.
It turns out drinking a Capri Sun warm is not very good. However, grab a nice cold one and they are delicious. I'd totally appreciate sitting by the pool and pulling one of these out of the ice-filled cooler. Don't let the packaging fool you. These are not healthy drinks. However, if you add a little vodka, and I think you've got a winning cocktail.
Diet Coke, 1982. Diet Coke wasn't the first Diet Cola. The Coca-Cola Company introduced Diet Right all the way back in 1958, and its Diet Cola Tab in 1963. Even rival Pepsi entered the Diet Cola market with Diet Pepsi in 1964. Diet Coke was a massive step when inaugurated in 1982 because it was the first product to use the Coca-Cola trademark for almost a century. Diet Coke in the US was made with saccharin but soon switched to aspartame in 1983. Bonus product, Equal, 1982. Speaking of aspartame, the aspartame-based artificial sweetener Equal was also launched in 1982. It was a sugar substitute used for anything from sweetening coffee to baking. What did I use it for? Our 1980s consumer product lunch? If you thought I'd add Equal to Diet Coke to see what happens, that's crazy. And I totally did it. It doesn't take much Equal added to Diet Coke to make a fun fizzy overflow. I named this drink Volcaspartame and tried it. It's extra artificially sweet and quite sickening. I won't add Equal to Diet Coke and drink it again. Even the thought makes me nauseous. But at least I can say I did it once in my life, so I can die without regret. Milo is not a fan of artificial sweeteners.
Yuck, is all I can say about this. It tastes a little like Coke when you first drink it, then you get that nasty aftertaste that goes along with diet drinks.
Bud Light, 1982. Since we had well exceeded our healthy intake of sugar during our 1980s consumer product luncheon, we decided to top it off with some Bud Light. Known as Budweiser Light for the first few years of its existence, Bud Light was introduced to American consumers in 1982. Today, it is almost as ubiquitous as Diet Coke, and it's hard to imagine there was a world without Bud Light. Following the diet trend of the early 80s, Bud Light offered a lower-calorie option for beer drinkers. It was also a challenge to category-defining Miller Lite, released years earlier. In fact, Bud Light, propelled by effective advertising, overtook Miller Lite in sales by the mid-90s. There's some kind of 21st century controversy involving Bud Light going on. Milo has his opinions, but I don't pay attention to that kind of thing and have no clue what's going on. We'll both be swapping back to our Pacific Northwest microbrews anyway.
I want to support Bud Light because I own stock in the company, and all the conservatives are hating on the company because of that whole whatever thing. And I generally like to do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. But let's be honest, it's Bud Light. It's something you drink when you are out working and don't want to drink water, but also can drink a beer because you are working. So you get a Bud Light. It's like beer, but mostly it's water. Another interesting thing about this is beer is supposed to taste better the more you drink, right? Oddly, with this, it seemed to taste worse as I continued drinking it. Although that could also be because I was using it to wash fruit roll-up goo out of my mouth.
What do you think about these products? Are there other foods or beverages introduced in the 80s that are still around today you would have added to this list? Are you surprised we didn't die of a heart attack after this lunch? Let me know. Also, be sure to check out the 80s and 90s uncensored podcast food episodes. With that, I leave you with this quote. For all you do, this Bud's for you. Budweiser slogan.